April 18th, 2018. Riyadh. A 620-seat theater in the King Abdullah Financial District, originally designed as a symphony hall, now converted into something else, something that had not existed in this country for 35 years. A cinema. The lights dimmed. The screen flickered, and for the first time since 1983, Saudis watched a movie in a public theater in their own country. The film was Black Panther, a Marvel superhero story about an African nation hidden from the world, revealing itself. The irony was not lost on anyone. Outside, crowds gathered. Some had driven hours. Some had flown from other cities. Many were under 35. They had never experienced this. Their entire lives, cinema had been forbidden. Seen something you did abroad, or in secret, or not at all. Now, in this converted hall, with the smell of popcorn and the glow of the screen, Saudi Arabia was rewriting its cultural code. This is the story of how a nation banned movies for a generation, and what happened when the lights came back on. Riyadh in the 1970s was different. There were cinemas, not many, but they existed. In athletic clubs, in private venues, in improvised halls in Jeddah and Mecca. Egyptian films, Indian films, Turkish films. Families would gather, men and women in the same space. Entertainment was not yet a battleground. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman said it himself in 2017. We were living a very normal life, like the rest of the Gulf countries. Women were driving cars. There were movie theaters in Saudi Arabia. Women worked everywhere. We were just normal people developing like any other country in the world. Then came 1979, November 20th, the first day of the Islamic year, 1400. The holiest site in Islam, the Grand Mosque in Mecca, was seized by armed militants. Hundreds of gunmen, led by Juhayman al-Attabi, took approximately 100,000 pilgrims hostage. The siege lasted 2 weeks. French commandos were secretly flown in. They had to convert to Islam before entering the holy city. Gas was pumped into the basement. When it ended, al-Attabi and 67 followers were beheaded in public squares across 8 cities. But the kingdom was shaken. The militants had complained about modernization, about women on television, about Western entertainment, about cinema. They saw Saudi society as morally corrupt, drifting from true Islam. The government faced a choice: crack down on religious conservatives, or appease them. They chose appeasement. The clerics demanded concessions in exchange for their support in retaking the mosque, for the religious ruling that allowed weapons in Islam's holiest site. They wanted the government to reverse modernization, remove women from television, enforce stricter dress codes, empower the religious police, stop the spread of Western influence, and close the cinemas. By 1983, every public cinema in Saudi Arabia was shut down. The screens went dark. The projectors stopped. For 35 years, not a single public movie would be shown in the kingdom. The only exception, a single IMAX theater in Koba, at the Sultan bin Abdulaziz Science and Technology Center. Educational content only. For everything else, Saudis improvised. Video rental stores appeared in the 1980s, offering Arabic, Western, and Asian films. Families gathered around televisions with VCRs and later DVDs. Satellite television arrived in the 1990s, bringing hundreds of channels from across the Arab world. Those with means traveled to Bahrain, to Dubai, to London, just to watch a movie on a big screen. An entire generation grew up without knowing what it felt like to sit in a dark theater with strangers, to share in the collective experience of cinema. Haifaa al-Mansour, who had become Saudi Arabia's first female filmmaker, was one of them. Her father, a poet, would drive to Blockbuster and bring home whatever films he could find. The family watched together in their living room. Neighbors judged them. Some called it sinful, but her father kept bringing movies home. I just wanted to have a voice, al-Mansour said later. Film was my main source of watching the world and life.
In 2012, something remarkable happened. A film was shot entirely in Saudi Arabia. directed by a Saudi woman about a 10-year-old girl in Riyadh who dreams of owning a bicycle. The film was called Haifaa al-Mansour wrote and directed it. It took 5 years. Not because the story was complicated, but because everything about making it was nearly impossible. There was no film industry, no infrastructure, no trained crews, and no cinemas to show it in. Al-Mansour had to find funding from abroad. She secured backing from Rotana, the media company owned by Prince Al-Waled bin Talal, and partnered with a German production company. Then came the shooting. Saudi Arabia's rules prohibited women from working publicly with men. Al-Mansour could not stand on the streets of Riyadh directing her crew, so she did something extraordinary. She directed from the back of a van. With a small monitor and a walkie-talkie, she watched the shots and shouted instructions to her all-male crew outside. When religious police came to inspect, production would halt and relocate. "It was really frustrating," she said. "I shouted at everybody from the back of the van." The film premiered at the 2012 Venice Film Festival. It was nominated for a BAFTA. It became Saudi Arabia's first ever submission for the Academy Awards. Wajda could not be shown in its home country. There were no cinemas. But the film did something else. It sparked a national conversation. For the first time in decades, Saudis were talking about opening theaters again.
December 11, 2017. Saudi Arabia's Minister of Culture and Information made an announcement that shocked the world. Public cinemas would be allowed by 2018. After 35 years, the ban was lifting. The announcement came as part of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's Vision 2030 reform program. The kingdom was trying to diversify its economy away from oil. Entertainment was identified as a key sector. The government projected that by 2030, Saudi Arabia would have more than 300 theaters with over 2,000 screens. 1 month later, in January 2018, a makeshift screening was held in Jeddah, a projector in a tent. The first film shown, The Emoji Movie. Critics called it pointless. But that was beside the point. The point was that Saudis were watching movies together again. The official opening came on April 18th. AMC Entertainment, the American theater chain, opened the first proper cinema in Riyadh's King Abdullah financial district. Black Panther played to a packed house. Wheaton Monts, Vox Cinemas, Movie Cinemas, and others followed. Multiplexes sprouted in malls across Riyadh, Jeddah, and Dammam. A country that had no cinemas suddenly had dozens, and the audience was hungry. The numbers tell the story. 2080, 38 million rials in box office revenue. The first year, barely a few months of operation. 2019, 874 million rials, over 54 million tickets sold in 2 years. 2020, the pandemic hit. Revenues dropped. 2021, recovery began. 206 million rials. 2022, 937 million rials. A new peak. 2023, 922 million. 2024, 845 million 17.5 million tickets sold. 504 films screened. Average ticket price, 48 rials. Roughly $14. By 2024, Saudi Arabia had become the 10th largest box office market in the world. Riyadh alone generated 391 million rials, the highest of any city in the kingdom. The market is projected to reach $1,290 million by 2033. In 6 years, a country with 0 cinemas became a regional powerhouse. The operators are global IMC, Box, Mubi, Emax, and Empire Cinemas. Cinepolis. They brought the latest technology. 4K projection, Dolby Atmos sound, luxury recliners, IMAX screens. The audience skews young. Over 60% of Saudi Arabia's population is under 30. They grew up without cinemas, but they grew up with screens, televisions, laptops, phones. Now they were ready for the real thing, and they came in millions. The lifting of the ban did not just bring Hollywood to Riyadh. It awakened something else. Saudi filmmakers. For decades, they had worked in the shadows, making short films for festivals abroad, studying in foreign universities, waiting for an opportunity that never came. Now, it was here. In 2019, the Red Sea International Film Festival launched in Jeddah. It became a major platform for regional talent, attracting filmmakers, actors, and producers from around the world. Recent editions have featured Viola Davis, Andrew Garfield, Emily Blunt, Spike Lee, Priyanka Chopra Jonas, Michelle Yeoh, Benedict Cumberbatch. Saudi productions started appearing in cinemas alongside Hollywood blockbusters. Masamir. The movie found audiences both domestically and on Netflix. Born a King told the story of young King Faisal, his diplomatic mission to London in 1919. The Perfect Candidate. Haifaa al-Mansour's second Saudi feature premiered at the Venice Film Festival in 2019. The Tambour of Retribution won awards at the Cairo International Film Festival and was selected to represent Saudi Arabia at the Oscars. By 2024, Saudi films accounted for 19% of total box office revenue. 18 Saudi productions screened that year alone. The Saudi Film Commission launched with a mission: position Saudi Arabia as a world-class film center, with a target of $500 million in industry revenue. A $100 million film fund was established to attract international studios and support local production. The talent that had been waiting in the shadows for decades was finally stepping into the light. And Haifaa al-Mansour no longer needed to direct from the back of a van. Not everything changed. The cinemas are open, but content is controlled. Films are reviewed by the General Commission for Audiovisual Media. Scenes are cut. Entire films are banned. The criteria are not always clear, but the boundaries exist. Ticket prices, while reduced in 2024, remain high by regional standards. $14 is affordable for affluent Riyadh residents, but not for everyone. Migrant workers, who make up a significant portion of the population, are largely absent from the multiplexes. And there are questions about what cinema means in a society still navigating change. Can Saudi filmmakers tell the stories they want to tell? What are the limits of creative freedom in a country where political dissent is not tolerated? How do you build a genuine film culture when the government controls the narrative? The Red Sea Film Festival is lavish, but it is also a soft power project. The Saudi Film Commission is ambitious, but it is also a government agency. The line between culture and propaganda is not always visible, and there is the matter of history. The ban lasted 35 years. An entire generation grew up without cinemas. The religious establishment that demanded the closures still exists, even if its power has been curtailed. The cultural trauma and the cultural gap cannot be erased in 6 years. Some Saudis remember what it was like before. Some remember what they lost. Others are too young to remember anything. April 2024. 6 years since Black Panther. Riyadh's first art house cinema opened. 80 seats across 3 screening rooms. 4K laser projectors. Atmos sound. The opening film, a 1975 documentary called Development of Riyadh City by Saudi director Abdul al-Muhsin, was born in 1947. He studied philosophy and film in the UK. He made documentaries about the transformation of the Middle East in the 1960s and 1970s. Then the ban came, and he stopped. Now, at nearly 80 years old, his work was being shown in his own country for the first time. This is what 35 years means. A filmmaker who started in one era, silenced, and now rediscovered in another. What does cinema mean to a nation that lost it? Perhaps it means more than entertainment. Perhaps it means something about identity, about what is allowed and what is forbidden, about who gets to tell stories and who gets to hear them. Saudi Arabia is building a film industry at unprecedented speed. Billions of dollars Hundreds of screens, millions of tickets, international festivals, Oscar submissions, Hollywood partnerships. But an industry is not a culture. Culture takes time. It takes reeks. It takes stories that challenge, not just stories that entertain. It takes filmmakers who can push boundaries and audiences who are ready to be pushed. Haifaa al-Mansour made Wajda in a van because she had no other choice. She told a story about a girl who wanted a bicycle in a country where girls were not supposed to ride bicycles. The film was gentle, not angry. Hopeful, not bitter. It showed life as it was, without judgment. That is what cinema can do. Show life as it is. Let people decide for themselves what it means. The screens are lit again in Riyadh. The projectors are running. The audiences are filling the seats. The question now is not whether Saudis will watch movies. The question is what stories they will tell, and whether anyone will let them.